Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when this finds you. Hope you're having a great day. Hope you had a great day, or if you haven't started, hope you have a great day. I just want to talk a little bit about a message that I've been, harping on for a number of years. The message has never changed. The problem is, many of us just don't want to take heed and do what needs to be done, because many of us have gotten, comfortable in a sense. And if we look at information today, the most viewed videos on any platform are basically shorts, because people lack concentration and focus. And this is not an accident. This is by design. The system has created the environment of short attention span, so you can't follow a sustained chain of thought. And I looked at something, I might even mention it on a video about a year ago. They say the average attention span of a human being, an adult human being, is 8 seconds. And the attention span of a goldfish is 9 seconds. And that's a pretty sad state of affairs for people that are supposed to be civilized. But if you can't follow, you learn that you don't have to think. And in essence, what they're doing is they are conditioning you to have emotional responses only. And this is the new form of psychological control. And for years, like I said, I've been teaching the same message. I talk a lot about a lot of different things, but if you go back and analyze basically everything I've said, it's all gonna end up translating to the same end result. We've spent entirely too much time focusing on voting and politics instead of economics. When we didn't have a voice at the ballot box, we actually had more economics. Even after we had all of the black Republicans 5 years after slavery officially ended, the Democrats were the one that came in and fought extra hard to dismantle our political position. And they succeeded. See, when black people lost their voting rights, it wasn't because of Republicans. It was because of Democrats. And then in the 60s, when LBJ signed the Voting Rights Act in 1965, black people said Democrats did something for them. No, they didn't. They just gave you back what they had taken from you already. And get this, Eisenhower had a bill in 57 and 60 that included the Voting Rights and Civil Rights Act in the same bill that black people basically voted against and talked bad against. And we don't understand that. Excuse me. I still have a home phone. It goes kind of crazy during the course of a day. But Eisenhower had given us the Voting Rights Act and Civil Rights Act in the same two separate bills, 1957 and 1960. And Roy Wilkins and them other handkerchief head Negroes said it wasn't enough. And when LBJ basically diluted the civil rights portion of the bill in 64 and gave it to you, them handkerchief head Negroes was all giddy sitting around they white daddy LBJ happy. And then when he gave them the Voting Rights Act in 65, they super happy. But get this, LBJ only made it temporary to be renewed every now and then, every so often. But that's just, we don't know. We don't know nothing. And anytime somebody like me try to tell you something, you want to minimize me because you can't think. You put more importance on something. I read something the other day, and it was talking about this woman who was a dating and relationship coach was charging women $7,000 a session to teach them how to get in sustainable relationships. And come to find out, she had been in a relationship with a married man. And what thought came to my head was, that's just like Black America. We'll go pay thousands of dollars to somebody because they know how to put on marketing scheme, they know how to put on glitter, and have no substance behind them. And we'll pay them all of that money and give them all of the credibility. But then you have somebody come like me that don't have the marketing, don't have the glitter, but I have the substance, and you'll ignore me because I don't have white credentials. Yeah, I'm a little ticked right now. And it's not just about me, it's just our whole mentality as a culture. When we didn't have a voice at the ballot box, we had more economics. Let me tell you something. Listen real good. Every politician at every level is compromised. Every last one of them. That's why you saw them get Thomas Massey up out of there in the primaries. That's why you only seen Jesse Ventura have one term as governor up in Minnesota. That's why you seen them basically ignore Ron Paul for the time he was in office. Those are the ones that can't be compromised. The ones that's compromised have more than one term. Like I said, Ron Paul was the exception. He had several terms. But you keep going vote for them, and we keep getting nothing but burnt. See, compromising is the only way a politician can stay in office. That's why Margaret Taylor Greene, even though she economically enhanced herself greatly in her short time in office, she's gone. Trump didn't want her or Massey in office anymore because he don't like being challenged. So they all compromised. See, the Republicans and Republicans are both compromised. And I know what I call them, because you don't have two parties anymore. You haven't had two parties in a long time. You have a uni party. Both parties are compromised. And right now, let me get into my message. Right now we have in our community, in our culture, we have $1.7 trillion in buying power. Trillion with a T. Yet we have and own less than 2% of the wealth in this country. Every culture in this country is getting rich and wealthy off of our money except us. Think about every black community that was thriving economically in the past. Every last one of them was built when we had no voice at the ballot box. But what we did have was love and support for each other. See, we need to build economics. We need to build our families. We need to build and protect our neighborhoods and communities. We need to place economics before politics. We need to support black-owned businesses first and foremost. See, now, this right here is going to trigger the great majority of you. We need to place our families above the church. Our churches are nothing more than social gatherings now. It's nothing but parties wrapped around a few verses out of the Bible with a whole bunch of shucking and jiving and buck dancing in the pulpit. It's nothing but a social gathering now. You ain't getting no true teaching from the pulpit. Nowhere. It's very few out there. Guy up in Philadelphia, I'm not going to mention his name, doing some good teaching. I don't agree with everything he says, but he's doing some good teaching. There are very few. Guy down in Lafayette, Louisiana is doing some good teaching. But for the most part, most of our churches ain't doing nothing. Nothing back. If pastors were doing what they were supposed to do, the country wouldn't look like it does. They around here talking about, all these conservative Christians around here talking about, we need to put prayer back in schools. We need to put God back in schools. But look at all these pastors getting arrested for child pedophilia, sex abuse, all these sex crimes. How are you going to say let's put God back in the school system when God ain't even in our churches? Yeah, I'm hot. See, we need to place our families above the church. Our families need our money more than your church and your pastor. We so ignorant as a people that we will literally sit there and give a pastor and his wife money to take vacation when we can't even afford to go ourselves. We stupid. Rent them Negroes limos. Let them go on vacation for a whole week and you can't even afford groceries for the next 7 days. See, we need a biblical foundation, not a Christian foundation. You know, we've always heard America was founded as a Christian nation. And when I didn't know any better, I say, oh yeah, it was. And even now that I know it better, I still say, oh yeah, it is. And it was. Because Christianity ain't got nothing to do with the Bible. Christians went and packed picnic baskets to go watch lynchings. Pastors would end church service early so they could watch lynchings. Christians took pictures and mailed them to their friends on postcards. Christians made black people serve them as ushers in the church with the white gloves to make sure they wasn't stealing the money. That's why we had to keep one hand behind our back. That's what white Christians did. We found that as a Christian nation, but some of the founding fathers owned slaves. You can't make this stuff up. White Christians, most of the white Christian churches in this country only want to talk about racial issues when it's a white and black issue. Other than that, because they're trying to act like they care about their black brothers and sisters, but they only want to keep the black brothers and sisters in their church without them rising up against them. So then they'll bring an outside black pastor to their church to have him try to give a message to smooth things over with the black congregants in the same church. Then after the incident dies down, the black pastor ain't back no more. The white pastor at your church don't talk about it no more. Just stop. See, we've been conditioned to think individually in this system instead of collectively. When we as blacks thought collectively, we built thriving communities. When the system stepped in, we started to think as individuals. We allowed the system to also steer us into getting a certificate called a college degree to work for what they created. They convinced us that working for them again, after slavery, was better than building our own economics while they kept destroying everything we built. Come on, black folks. What is our biggest flex now? Black women are the most educated. But see, we need to finish the sentence. The rest of that sentence is, however, it hasn't equated to financial success. We went from plantations to corporations. All they did was give us the opportunity to dress up for the privilege. My message still hasn't changed. It's just been silenced. Now, the one thing I would add is that we need to start growing our own produce and support small black farmers. The food we buy in these stores is garbage. See, black American spending power is basically right at 1.7, let's just say $2 trillion, making us a major force in the U.S. economy. Yet, you got these delusional Asians out there with businesses in black communities say we don't need black people. Okay then, it's time to starve the Asian businesses out of our communities. It's amazing how quickly they forget. See, if they don't need black people, why do they keep opening businesses in black neighborhoods? Two of the most destructive things that ever happened to the black community was the civil rights movement and the feminist movement. And I talked about that on the previous two videos. You can go back and listen to those. But speaking of the Asian culture, look at how white America thinks and acts. They've been so focused on keeping their boots on the necks of black people so that we could never rise financially that the entire Far Eastern culture has leapfrogged them economically. The Asian income is almost $30,000 higher annually than white income. Every last one of the Asian culture's income is above whites. Every last one. But the whites accomplished what they wanted. They kept us below them because their income is on average $30,000 annually higher than ours. See, but the problem is some people need to feel superior And the only way they can do that is to have someone else to look down on. And the sad thing is, although education is placed at the forefront of the Asian cultures, they are no smarter than us. Just most of them just have no athletic ability or entertainment value to the American society. So they have to focus on education. I said it. How many recent reports have come out showing their credentials have been manufactured, like in nursing and IT? I know somebody that worked in IT, the only black on her team. The rest of her team was made up of Asian Indians. And she said, I had to keep correcting their work. But they get told society believes black people are dumb, stupid, and ignorant. But these people from the Far East credentials, I'm not saying all of them, because there are some intelligent ones out there. But they've been labeled to be smarter than everybody else. But a lot of their credentials have been made. I think the nursing credentials, they said 40% of Asian Indian nurses basically failed, but they got passing grades. 40%. I remember my chemistry lab partner when I was at U of H was a Chinese guy. He was literally one of the dumbest human beings I have ever known. Yet, in the grand scheme of things, when you would have talked to anybody that was in class with us and lab with us back then, guess who they kept saying was the weakest link? I'll talk to you later.